Hi, YouTube. I've talked about it before, but one of the things that I really enjoy is being a baseball coach. When my son plays, either being the coach of his team or being an assistant coach, it's something that I really, really enjoy. My philosophy with my wife has always been with the kids: keep them busy, keep them out of trouble, and youth sports plays a big role in that. It also teaches them about working towards a common goal with other teammates, working together, discipline. And, a lot of the kids really need this. They really need that structure and discipline. And I really think it's a pretty healthy thing for kids in general. It's an important part of their childhood development. I know it's not for everyone, but it's just something I've always been a big proponent of. And it's great. A big part of it is you're coming out of winter. The winters here are so long, and here it is, it's spring, and now the sun's shining on a nice early May evening, and it just, I don't know, there's something about it that just feels like the year's really beginning then. This whole thing with these endless winters we're going through, I don't know, it just sucks. But anyway, it's just something that I really enjoy. And, watching a kid get their first hit and the big smile on their face and everything else. And that's what that's my other favorite thing is actually when I'm coaching is going out and being the first base coach, because I'm standing there as they get their first hit and, give them the knuckle bump kind of thing. Well, there's another side to that too, is how do they react the first time they get hit with the ball? That's a real inflection point for these kids in their little budding baseball careers, is the first time they get hit with that ball. I tell you what, there are a lot of 11 and 12-year-old kids that can really, really bring it. They can really throw the ball hard. And, there's always always a couple of 9 and 10-year-olds that are playing as well with these kids. And I tell you what, it's pretty intimidating. And inevitably, it happens to every one of them. They all get hit with the ball. And it's always interesting to see how they react to it. And it's always the same thing. You go out there and you're like, all right, you're okay. All right, rub some dirt on it. You'll be fine. Come on. Yep, there you go. Rub some dirt on it. Now take your base. Go to first base. And some of the kids do. They rub some dirt on it and they run down to first base and they dry their tears and it's game on. Other kids, it breaks them. It ruins it for them, and they'll never be a good baseball player. In fact, a lot of them generally stop playing shortly after. They're afraid of the ball now, and their front foot will bail in the batter's box, and you can't hit anything like that. Or they'll stand there with a bat on their shoulder and basically shivering, hoping that the pitcher, throws 4 balls to them. And it basically, facing that type of adversity, it basically breaks them. Okay, and it's a shame. And as soon as their next plate appearance, you'll know. Like I said, some of those kids didn't faze them. They're still aggressive. They're going after that ball. And other kids, they're done. They're done. So it's a great metaphor to me personally to think about, how do you handle adversity? How do you handle it when life throws a fastball and hits you in the ribs? Are you one of the kids that basically it just kind of breaks you and you're done? Are you able to bounce back up and take your base and rub some dirt on it and the game goes on? It's a pretty important question given what we're seeing today, right? There's a lot of challenges facing all of us. I guarantee you at some point this year, something's going to happen and you're going to have an unexpected bill come out of nowhere. Maybe your transmission blows in your car. We're a lot of us that are trying to be frugal, we're driving older cars. And guess what happens with older cars? Expensive repairs. A lot of us are getting older too. Well, guess what comes with getting older? Suddenly these little odd medical issues. Maybe you come down with kidney stones and you end up with a $2,000 doctor bill. Who knows what it's going to be. But we're all going to face it. So do you let that derail you from what you're trying to accomplish? Do you kind of throw your hands up? Yeah, that's my luck. That's my luck. That's the way it is. I'm done. or do you fight through it? Do you basically put it into your plans and say, look, I mean, I had to pay $2,000. Oh, well, that set me back for a couple months, but now I'm back on track. I will say this. For those of you that are living paycheck to paycheck with no safety net, you're the ones that get hurt the worst by this. Okay? And that's why it's so important that you get out of debt and you start living within your means. Because you may not even realize this, but you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself that you may not even be aware of. Maybe it's subconscious. Maybe it actually isn't. But regardless, you're putting a ton of pressure on yourself. And that pressure has to come out somewhere. And you know where it usually comes out? Arguing with your wife. Your mood. You know, it's very difficult to have this debt cloud, this debt overhang hanging over you in your day-to-day life. That pressure of, I got to keep going just to maintain. That's a lot to deal with. Do you ever find yourself exhibiting displaced anger? Suddenly you're just arguing with your wife about who knows what? It could be your money issues and you don't even realize it. You know, I hate to be all, rainbow and unicorny. Is that even a word? I'll tell you this. My wife and I don't really argue that much anymore. And, we used to argue quite a bit. You know, there's a lot of financial pressures being placed on us. And a big reason for that was, having debt, seemingly spinning our wheels and not getting anywhere. And that's really gone away in a lot of ways. It's just one thing that I found is, when they say that, the old saying, money can't buy happiness, is true in some regards. But what they're not really saying is that you're going to be totally broke and living paycheck to paycheck. In that case, building wealth really does afford you peace of mind. It can kind of calm you down a little bit. And you may find that your relationships get stronger because you're not so focused on just barely hanging on. I read all these statistics about how many people are, basically, one paycheck away from the streets. Boy, that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. One paycheck away from just missing my bills? Boy, you're putting a lot of faith in your employer and everything else. So my only point is live within your means, get out of debt, and give yourself a safety net. Okay, so that next time that you're up at the plate and life decides to drill you with a fastball, instead of a 10-year-old kid quaking in your boots, now you're Barry Bonds and you get all those pads and everything else, and the ball just kind of glances off. You're so much better positioned to handle the things that come your way when you're able to get this discipline and get it going. And I realize I'm not talking to everybody. I mean, a lot of you have already been doing this, but believe me, I hear from it all the time. There's a lot of people that watch videos like this that are just barely starting. And all I can tell you is stick with it because it is worth your while.